Hello, welcome to today's live stream where I am going to tackle one of the questions I get asked most as a thesis coach. Before I jump in, I am Gabby from www.mythesiscoach.com. Today, in particular, I am wanting to talk to you about the question of what is referencing. Now, I run loads of academic writing and thesis writing workshops. And in the beginning, I always do an exercise where people talk about their feelings around academic writing. And when I ask them what the thing is that makes them the most nervous, 9 times out of 10, the first thing that comes up is referencing. So this is going to be a super quick video. And in it, I am going to explain very basically what referencing is, what it consists of, 2 main schools of referencing, and finally, why it's actually important. Hi, Monashe. Okay, let's start off by talking about what is referencing. So referencing is the technique that you utilize in academic writing to tell the reader the sources that you have used to develop your thinking. So for example, imagine you're reading a journal article and you see something super interesting that you think is actually relevant to the thing that you're writing at the time. Now, you can't just go and take that out. That would be theft, intellectual theft, and unethical. But what you can do, which is actually the thing that I think is so cool about academic writing, is that you can tell the reader where you got that idea from. Now, that serves several purposes. One of the purposes that it serves is giving credit where credit is due. I took the idea from whoever, I need to say thank you to whoever. But also what it's doing is creating this awesome interconnected web of knowledge. Because if you took that idea, words, if I am writing and I say that I took an idea from that person, and you're reading my writing, you might think, oh, that person's article could be interesting. And you might then go and read their article, which might lead you onto another article. And if you write something, what you've written then joins that whole web of knowledge that's being created. And to me, I find that something really exciting. So what is referencing in general? Referencing is you saying, here's the person or the people from whom I borrowed this idea. Okay, I'm going quickly. If you want to ask questions, you're very welcome to do so in the chat. All right, that's the definition. What does it consist of? So referencing can seem really overwhelming, but actually there are only 2 things you need to be doing when you're referencing. The first thing is that you need to have in-text citations. And what in-text citations are, in the text itself, you tell the reader who the author was and the date that source was written. So that's when, there are different ways to do it, which I'll talk about on the next point. But in-text citation is, when you're reading a document and you see the little name and date in brackets, that's in-text citation. Sometimes you'll be reading and you'll see a little number, at the bottom of the page, that number will give you more details about the source. That's in-text citation. So that's the one thing you need to be doing when you're referencing. The other thing that you need to be doing when you are referencing is keeping a reference list. And the reference list is a list of all the sources that you have mentioned in your in-text citation. So if you're reading your text and you have Noodleman 2021 in your text, on the reference list, you're going to have full details about that source. So it'll have the author's name, the date, the title, the publisher, lots of different information for different sources. So those are the only 2 things you need to be thinking about when you are doing referencing. That your in-text citations and you have your reference list. So that's where people start to panic because suddenly they're like, there's so many different ways to do it, blah, blah, I'm so overwhelmed, all these different words flying at you. Here's what you need to know to calm down the stress. Within that, there are actually only 2 major schools of referencing systems. The first major school is the author date school of referencing systems. And that is what I was saying before. When you're reading and in brackets, you have an author and a date. That's an author date. That's one of the author date systems. You might have heard words like Harvard system, APA, what else have we got? MLA. All of those are author date systems. Now, these will differ a little bit because, for example, Harvard might have a comma between the author and the date. APA has a comma, a P, I don't know, a colon. They're all a little bit different. So those differences, though, are just cosmetic. All of the author date systems all have the author and the date in the text. The other school of writing of referencing systems are the number systems. And those are the one, like I was saying, where you're reading, you come across a little number one. At the end on the reference list, it says number one and has details of that source. Those are all the number systems. So those are things like IEEE. There are many others. I think Vancouver is one of those as well. Those are all number systems. Again, there are nuances because sometimes the number will be like a superscript. Sometimes it'll be in a bracket. Those are just differences. Again, those are just cosmetic differences between the systems. But what you really need to know is that there are number date systems. There are author date systems and there are number systems. Those are the only two systems that you need to be thinking about. And that is it. Why do we reference? Well, we reference because it gives credit where credit is due. My little academic partner is joining. It gives credit where credit is due. That is what referencing does. It ties into that web of knowledge. It allows us to enter the conversation of what people are talking about and writing about in the topic that we are interested in. That's why we reference, to be a part of that and a legitimate part of that. In another video, I'll talk about how to do it. And yes, there are nuances, like I said, but don't let them scare you. If you have a general sense of what referencing is, that it's in-text citations and a reference list, that there are different schools of systems of referencing, and they are either going to be an author date system or a number system, and that you're doing this to show that you are an authentic and important part of the academic conversation, you are going to be all set with getting going with referencing in your thesis. Cheers all. Visit www.mythesiscoach.com for more referencing tips, for more thesis tips and ideas, and I look forward to connecting another time. Cheers.